Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
The Liberal government's argument for invoking the Emergencies Act on Canadians is very quickly falling apart. Last week we learned the RCMP did not ask the government to invoke the Act, and just yesterday we learned the Ottawa Police didn't either. The Liberals are simply not telling Canadians the truth. The Emergency Measures Act was an overreach by the Prime Minister and a government in trouble. Their power grab was just another example of classic Liberal cover-up, deny, and blame. Isn't that the truth, Mr. Speaker?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
The illegal blockades in our cities and at our ports represented a threat to Canadian jobs, to trade, and to our democracy. Police told us they needed additional tools to clear the blockades, and as the OPP Chief Superintendent Carson Pardee said at yesterday's meeting, and I quote, "The Emergencies Act gave police effective supplementary tools needed to help protect critical infrastructure and ensure the continuous and safe delivery of essential goods and services, while at the same time maintaining, or in the case of Ottawa, restoring peace, order, and public security."
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
The Prime Minister's divisiveness is the reason the protests started, and his failure to lead is the reason it got worse. The Prime Minister called people names, he wedged, he divided, and then he spread misinformation. Then, to deal with the mess that he created, he invoked the Emergencies Act, stomping on freedoms and freezing bank accounts. Now he's covering up. The time has come for the Prime Minister to stop spreading disinformation, stop hiding the fact that he and his ministers had no valid reason to invoke the Emergencies Act. Will he do that? Will he tell the truth?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in February, when blockades and occupations disrupted our economy, hurt workers, and endangered public safety, we invoked the Emergencies Act to help bring them to an end. We've now announced the Public Order Emergency Commission, an independent public inquiry to examine the circumstances that led to the declaration being issued and the measures taken in response as required under the Act. I know that the leader of the Conservative Party, the interim leader of the Conservative Party, as well as members of the Conservative Party, may not want light shed on these events giving their support of these blockades, but Canadians want to know the truth.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
More disinformation from this Prime Minister. He should be ashamed of what he just said. Now, Mr. Speaker, airports across the country are at a breaking point with massive lineups and delays. People are waiting for months and months and months for passports and basic government services, and it's all because of this Prime Minister's failure. While the world has moved on from COVID, Canada is stuck in out-of-date restrictions and rules because the Liberal Prime Minister is stubborn, out of touch, and out of date. My question is simple. When will Canada get back to pre-COVID normal? When?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as much as the Conservatives would like to ignore it, COVID-19 is still with us and will continue to be with us, and Canadians need to continue to follow the best science in order to keep people safe. In regards to airports, our government has already taken action to reduce wait times by standing up working groups with relevant agencies to identify and address bottlenecks and hiring about 400 additional security screeners. The CBSA has also added 25 kiosks at Pearson Airport to speed up processing time and increased overtime available to officers. Unfortunately, for Conservatives, we will continue to follow the science and keep Canadians safe.
Order. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Speaker, Canadians know the Prime Minister doesn't have to wait for hours in line at an airport when he wants to go somewhere. He just hops on his government jet and flies wherever he likes. Once there, off goes his mask and he enjoys the freedom that country is visiting. And I guess COVID isn't in those particular countries. Meanwhile, back in Canada, Canadians are suffering under his out-of-date COVID rules. Canadians have done everything that they've been asked to do. They have done everything expected of them. When are they going to get back to the pre-COVID life they need and they deserve?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, all Canadians are sick and tired of COVID. We all agree on that one. But wishing it away or ignoring it will simply not make it go away. Over the past months, we've seen more deaths from COVID than from at any time in the beginning of the pandemic. We will continue to do the work that Canadians elected us to do just 6 months ago and do everything necessary to keep Canadians safe. I know Conservatives have not been unequivocal on the need for vaccines. They've been hesitant. They've been supporting anti-vaxxers. We will continue to stand on the side of keeping Canadians safe.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
He goes again spreading more disinformation when he's got no valid argument. It's disinformation on that side. Well, Speaker, the Prime Minister doesn't have to wait in a line. He doesn't have to worry about filling up his tank, buying groceries, or buying a home. Young people in this country are desperately worried about those things, and they know the Prime Minister either doesn't understand or he just doesn't care. They see a Prime Minister who blames everyone else for the problems he has created. The fact is, millions of young Canadians are seeing the truth. They don't trust the Prime Minister. They don't believe he understands their struggles. Why is he ignoring and disrespecting young Canadians?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
From the beginning of the pandemic, Mr. Speaker, we made a promise to Canadians that we would have their backs, and that especially included young Canadians, where we invested in support for the kinds of small businesses that keep young people employed, that we reduced student costs, tuition costs, support in terms of student loans. We've continued to invest in increasing Canada's summer jobs to make sure they got through the pandemic. We've consistently been there for young people, and every step of the way, Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives criticize us for doing as much as we have to help young people. They've criticized us for not supporting young people, for supporting young people at all. We will continue to be there for all Canadians.